Look guys, look. I draw. Yeah. Hello my foresty friends. I'm Autumn, or Autumn as Eclipse if you want to be fancy about it. And I draw sometimes. Actually, that's a lie. I draw a lot. I have nothing else better to do. And when I show people my art, my favorite compliment I get is when people say some variation of, "Oh, I love your art style." Nothing fills my stomach with happy butterflies more than when that's said to me. It's one of the best compliments I could ever receive, right next to when Urban.Fakir called my art ravishingly elegant, which is like the only thing keeping my self-esteem together nowadays. I put a lot of importance to my art style because it's something I always want to keep in mind when I draw. So I kind of want to talk about how I develop my art style, and to go down memory lane for a bit, to watch how my art has grown because I like talking about myself a lot. I'm going to just get rid of the mystery here for a second and just say that when I started drawing, I didn't really have a clear idea of what kind of art style or what kind of art I wanted to do. The only thing that I really thought about was making something anime. Because I was really into that when I was younger and didn't know any better. To be fair, I was like 12 in the olden age of 2016, so I think I can have a pass on that one, I don't know. I didn't even source my inspo from any specific anime series, I just wanted anime, and because of that, my art style was pretty much all over the place. It was this mix of wanting to be simplistic but also detailed, and I wasn't skilled enough to be able to do either. I showed off a lot of my older drawings in the sketchbook video, but I want to do something a little bit more spicy, because while that video showed off a lot of traditional drawings, I'm now going to show off some old digital art. I'm going to show you the very first piece I've ever posted on my first Instagram account. Brace yourselves, this one is pretty bad. 3, 2, 1, BAM! I know, I'm so sorry. This is a drawing of some character of a game that I've forgotten about by now. It's not important, but you can see how vaguely anime it is, with the hair that you could hypothetically use as a fork, the mini orbiting celestial bodies that's meant to look like highlights, and the eyes. Dear God, the eyes. I drew this when I was 13, the slightly less olden age of 2017, and here is when I was neck deep in the anime stuff. I very much wanted that stereotypical anime art style because I thought it was so pretty, and I still kinda do. I can't even remember the kinds of anime I would watch, but I think it was stuff like Pokemon and Precure, and you can kinda see it maybe, I don't know. I remember enjoying myself drawing in this art style for a while, and I was even improving at it quite nicely, at least to me. At the time, I did have a drawing tablet that connected to my computer that was handed down to me by my brothers. Can't remember what brand it was, but I remember struggling with it so much as a child and wanting to get better with it. At some point, I was sent away to study in MRSM at a dorm that didn't allow electronics, which would predictably make it hard to draw on the computer, which is why I had so many sketchbooks filled with drawings. Eventually, I was able to bring an iPad to my asrama, which allowed me to draw stuff on Ibis with my finger, and later on with my Apple Pencil. That most likely had an influence on my art style because due to the fact that I was drawing with my finger or iPad pencil, I had the instinct to draw with thick line art because of the pen pressure, and also it was the most comfortable for me. I actually drew with my iPad more than my tablet just because it was easier and also because I could use it way more often. I remember feeling pretty bad about it because I knew my dad spent so much on the tablet, and when I didn't use it, it felt like such a waste. And then I kept drawing with the iPad because I'm so good at being a nice child. I think my favorite piece from this time would be this fan art of Tom Yum and Nasi Lemak from Food Fantasy. Please don't ask. It's really cute, and I remember I liked how anime it was. At some point, I was really into these Malaysian comic series called Candy Jam and Prince series at the time. If you don't know what those are, then good for you, you don't need to know. One of the things that the series' art liked to do was coloring the lines inside the subject of the drawing, and I slowly did it more and more until it eventually became a must for me, essentially. That kind of art also became a huge inspiration for me, and it got to the point where I no longer just wanted to do anime. Now I want to do something like this. My inspiration source became more focused. I found myself to be very comfortable with my art style at that point. This Food Fantasy piece of Brownie's backstory, don't question it, it would probably be my fave from this era. It's really pretty and fun for me now. I like how simple it is and sparkly it is. I do feel a bit of nostalgia for this era just because of how much it meant to me as a kid, that I was able to draw like this at all. I was really proud of myself just because it really felt like I went from struggling to draw to being able to somewhat draw now. I felt really good about myself. And then I changed my art style because I had a mental breakdown in 2020. Yahoo! Okay, it wasn't just because I was too sad to function at some point during the start of the pandemic. I don't think I'm a particularly unique case for that time period. But at some point I felt very frustrated with what I was drawing because while I was comfortable, I didn't feel like I was improving as much as I wanted to. I started to feel very restricted by what I could express using the art style at the time, and I wanted to change it really badly. This was my first time trying out an art style that wasn't just anime, and I started wanting to focus on a character's expressiveness. Not to say that you can't be expressive with the anime art style. Eiichiro Oda could beat my ass in an artistic sense and also in a physical sense too. I'm not a good fighter, but I wanted to do something that was different that also felt right for me. My art style kind of became a thing of its own. It's not exactly anime, but I also can't call it cartoonish. It was at this point where I kind of would just say I have a stylized art style. My family would look at it and still say it's anime, but I mean, look at it. I couldn't exactly call it that if we're being honest here, though anime really just means any animation that's from Japan. I don't think my art style would fit the bill for any kind of typical anime art style, you know. I used a lot of thicker liner and bold-ish colors because I was really inspired by a few artists that I followed that I'll talk about in a second. I feel like you can still sense some of my old art style in it, but I largely went out of my way to stray away from it as much as possible. I don't know if y'all know this, but learning a new art style really is like learning how to draw again. I don't know how people can just change their art style on the dime like that. I see those art style challenges and I'm just confused by it. Like, how are you even real? It was at this point that I was becoming more in tune with the online art community, specifically on Instagram. I still didn't know what Twitter was at that point. Oh, how I missed those ignorant days. I started learning about these amazing artists that didn't do anime stuff, and I realized that I wanted to do what these people do, like, really badly. While I was doing all of that, I made sure to make my art style look as clean as possible. I really liked using cell shading and make sure that the line art was as neat as possible. If I didn't like the line art on its own without coloring and shading, then it wasn't good enough. Since I was using an iPad with an Apple Pencil, it was really satisfying to do the thick line art, and it was much more easier for me to clean it up too. I was doing all of this with IBIS Paint because it was the most accessible for me at the time, but that eventually changed when I found out about this thing called Clip Studio Paint. I did use Medibang for a period of time, but I didn't do much of it. It doesn't matter. Now, Clip Studio Paint is kind of clowned on now for having such a meteoric downfall from being one of the most consumer-friendly programs to having an online monthly payment like every other trash program. But before, it didn't do that actually. I was still happy with IBIS, but I wanted to feel like a big boy and I wanted to try out a big boy art program. So I downloaded the free trial and oh my god. I made a piece with it for my birthday, and to this day, it's still one of my most favorite pieces I've ever done. I do not know how I did it. While I was making this, I wanted to make something that wasn't as clean as my other works because, well, it was my birthday and I wanted to do something fun like that. I wanted to give off the vibe that this drawing was hastily drawn or something like that, which I tried to give across with the calligraphy pen tool for the line art and the cross hatching as well. After this drawing, I started experimenting more with the brush textures on IBIS, especially with the Space Sweets series, where I used a bunch of different brushes for the sweets. And then I did again for my other most favorite drawing. It's this Mr. Nothing piece, and I love it so much to this day. I still don't know how to recreate this magic. It's literally so perfect to me. I don't know why. I was also starting to prefer a much more messier look for my drawings for a couple of reasons. I think I really enjoyed how quickly I could make them, and they also felt a lot realer to me, I guess. Like, instead of meticulously cleaning up line art, I just did a few swipes and scratches and it was just done, and I really liked that feeling. I still try to strike a balance of clean and messy, and it's something I like messing around with to this day. A shout out to this Reki and Langa piece. I just wanted to show it off because it's a favorite of mine in this era. Now I mainly use Wacom tablet with Clip Studio Paint that was gifted to me by a friend, but I am hoping I can switch to either Paint Tool Sai or Medibang or even IBIS Paint because of the aforementioned monthly payments. I think because of this, my output has slowed down drastically because I actually have to sit down in front of a laptop to draw instead of just having the iPad ready for me to draw whenever. I am planning on drawing on the iPad with Ibis again though, so I feel like now my art has a lot more polish. I still try to experiment with textures and different brushes, and I've honestly been enjoying it. I've also tried to draw a revamped version of my older art style just because it's fun. I use a lot more watercolor brushes for my art, mainly for shading because I really like the look of it, and it's fun to experiment with. And my favorite recent piece has to be this Flamebringer piece I've made. It took so long, but it was well worth it in the end. It didn't get enough recognition, but I don't care, I really like it. Now, a video talking about how my art style was developed would not be complete if I did not talk about the artists that inspired me to make my art style the way it is now. These people are basically my parasocial parents in the way that they influenced the way my art grew up. No, it doesn't work. I'll start listing down a few inspos that came to my mind, and then I'll end it out with the 3 big ones that inspire me to this day. So, art inspo lightning round. MT Brooke has a really cool art style that I love. I love watching her speed paints and her videos. It's the main thing that keeps me focused throughout them. Dalmau is just really good at drawing character pieces that feel like they tell you so much about the character, and I love that. Crabgrass Comics and by Twistwood are comic accounts, but I love their charming stories and the art is always so fun. Dommcell's art is how I wish I could portray my stories as well, always so charming. Shen Comix is also another really good one. I really love the art style change, it was really good for him. Ghozticalz has an art style that is both funny and also moody at times. It's so good. Yanana_Yua is instantly lovable. I mean, look at it. Tasoyamaro is so recognizable and the art is so comforting while also being a bit sad. DeerLucas's horror imagery just draws you in. I don't like horror that much, but his art is too good to look away from. Neytirix is iconic. I don't even need to say much for her. Dreamalgia's art is also so memorable to me. It's a perfect mix of cute and creepy. Coffee Kai's art is so important to me. It basically rewired my brain back when they still did Arknight stuff. And James Fenner, how can I even begin to describe his work, bro? Just look at it, man. We can stop here or else I'll just start listing down my entire followings list, and we really don't have the time for that. These are just the artists I follow. There's most likely a lot of pieces that I've seen that inspired me in a small way, but I didn't follow them because I forgot to or something. I haven't even touched on art that isn't necessarily illustrations or traditional artists that don't post on social media at all. If I told you I like James Pollock, would you think of me differently? Would it change how you see me? And now I need to tell you about the big tree that really fired the synapses in my brain, and that is Avocado 6, Parallel, and Inktober. I'll explain the last one in a minute, but oh my god, these 3. I could make a whole video talking about Avocado 6, so I'm gonna hold off as much as I can to make sure I'll have something to say when I make that video in 2030 or something, but I just need to let you know that I'm a big Avocado 6. Like, holy hell, I've been following them for years and I love everything that they have made. Well, mostly everything, but again, I'll save that for that video. Their art style is so iconic and memorable, and it did everything that young me wanted to do. I wanted to make something simple yet detailed, and Avocado 6 accomplishes that in spades. I know Avocado 6 probably has a bad rap of being that artist that people put in, ooh, so deep art compilations, but even their art that doesn't necessarily fit that bill looks so good to me. They're so good at executing at what they want to show with just the right amount of detail. It feels perfect. I once spent so long looking for their art book, and I was so sad when I realized I couldn't afford it as a kid. Inktober is a bit of a weird one. I used to really enjoy scrolling through the Inktober tags because I found a way how people would figure out how to use just black and white to create pieces of art so amazing and inspiring. Inktober was one of the first talents I've learned that I vowed to join one day when my skills were good enough. The scrolling through the Inktober tags was what really put a huge emphasis on line art for me. I wanted to create stylish line art that changed shape and texture and thickness depending on what the subject of the piece was doing, because I saw great artists doing just that for Inktober. It was a huge source of inspiration for me. And then the freaking copyright thing happened. That was fun and great to see happen. And then there's Parallel. Oh boy, you most likely already know who Parallel is, but if you don't, work on that right now. Literally, I have linked all mentioned artists in the description. Do it now. I don't know how to describe their art without just making vague noises of happiness. I don't think I have the right artistic vocab to properly convey how good it is. So I'm just going to make unga bunga noises for a sec. Colors nice. Characters so cool. So interesting. Want to learn more lore. Skill high. The style is styling so cool and awesome. I don't think it's surprising to know that Peril was a source of my inspo for me. I mean, look at my art style. Come on now. I don't bother with hiding my inspiration for my art. I feel like I wear them on my sleeve a lot. I get that there are some artists that feel weird about being inspired by or having people point out their inspirations. I don't think I've ever cared about it though, personally. To me, inspiration is a form of expression of love. Someone loves your art enough that they want to carry it into their own art and show it to other people because they truly believe that the piece that they took from what you put into your own art is their own best way to create their own art. Obviously, there are situations where taking inspo or taking aspects of someone's art can be malicious depending on the context, but for me, the default is that it's a good thing. It's a good thing that a lot of aspiring artists found your art to be their guidelines. I think this is why I'm so bleh about the concept of art style theft. It's a direct gatekeeping of that expression of love, and that sucks to me, because aside from money and fame, many artists worry about legacy. Will my art be remembered? Is it even important that I made what I have? Or at the very least, I have worried about these things. And just so you know, you don't need to be remembered for your art to matter. But people taking inspiration from your art and spreading it further like a ripple will be the closest thing to a legacy that many of us can bother to achieve. I'm not going to tell you how to feel about whatever boundary you have on your art. I just have my own feelings about it. Whew, that was a lot. I really liked it though. It was fun. Always a good time when I get to talk about myself for a bit. I hope you enjoyed listening to me. I'm my own favorite topic to talk about, so I hope you enjoyed listening to it. I guess if you're in need of some advice for finding your own art style, just do whatever you like. I'm being serious. Just look at what you want to do and work to get there, because when you do get there, eventually you start thinking of how to do your own thing out of sheer boredom when things get samey for you. I was always super worried about changing my art style too much because of quote-unquote branding reasons or whatever. But now I just do whatever, man. Eventually you think less about directly copying your favorite art style and more about how you can make it something that is unique to you. Just don't worry about improving so quickly. I think that was my mistake. Just take your time and have fun, man. Thanks so much for watching. If you enjoyed the video, like, subscribe, do all the things YouTubers ask you to do. I have other socials, and hopefully I've deleted Twitter by the time this video comes out. God bless. I also have commissions if you like the art that you saw, and the Discord server, yada 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 yada. Stay safe, my foresty friends.